Mike Wolfe sent shockwaves through viewers across America when the American Pickers star was led away in handcuffs. At first, everyone assumed his arrest was linked to a dispute over antiques or perhaps a business disagreement with the History Channel, but according to breaking news reports, Wolfe was arrested because the death of his former co-host, Frank Frits, was not due to natural causes as initially reported. Instead, investigators now classify it as premeditated murder. Medical reports revealed that Frits was found with lethal levels of medication in his system. He had been deliberately overdosed, and prosecutors charged Wolfe with murder, stating it was calculated, not accidental. Drugging a former business partner, someone who trusted you, was described by many as incomprehensible. Some even called it evil. Though many fans believed the tension between the two stars was merely for television ratings, Wolfe now sat behind bars, facing what prosecutors described as a revenge killing motivated by jealousy and greed. Reports surfaced on social media showing that Wolfe initially had his charges temporarily downgraded as investigators gathered more evidence. Another post revealed that Wolfe had been arrested after a crew member from American Pickers placed him at Fritz's home at the time of his death. The Iowa State Police launched a thorough investigation and uncovered damning evidence, including Wolfe's fingerprints on medication bottles and suspicious text messages sent to Frits, which ultimately led to first-degree murder charges. The investigation into Fritz's death began when the medical examiner noticed inconsistencies in his toxicology report. Though the official cause of death had been listed as complications from a stroke, the autopsy revealed dangerously high levels of prescription medication, levels far beyond what had been prescribed. This raised immediate red flags, especially since Frits had been known to follow his medication regimen carefully during his recovery. The Iowa State Police quietly opened an investigation focused on who had access to Frits in his final hours. What they discovered shocked even veteran detectives. Security footage from Fritz's neighborhood showed Wolfe's vehicle arriving at the residence late at night, approximately 3 hours before emergency services were called. It was Wolfe himself who dialed 911, claiming he had stopped by to check on his old friend and found him unresponsive. Paramedics arrived to find Frits with no pulse. Attempts to resuscitate him failed, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Though initial assumptions pointed to his stroke, toxicology told a different story. Investigators became particularly suspicious of Wolfe's behavior in the hours following Fritz's death. Rather than mourning, Wolfe immediately took steps to assert control over Fritz's antique collection and intellectual property. Within 48 hours, he had contacted Fritz's attorneys to inquire about acquiring the rights to his name and image for future American Pickers merchandise. Production staff also testified that Wolfe quickly accessed Fritz's storage units, which contained valuable antiques that had never aired on the show. Several crew members reported Wolfe's unusual focus on business matters, noting a stark absence of grief. A search of Wolfe's residence and office turned up a hidden safe containing several unlabeled prescription bottles. Lab testing later confirmed the contents matched the substances found in Fritz's system. Most damning of all was a journal found in Wolfe's travel bag, filled with years of entries detailing growing resentment toward Frits. Some entries were particularly hostile. In one entry, written just weeks before Fritz's death, Wolfe wrote, "F thinks he can come back and take half the spotlight again. He forgets that without me, there would be no show. He's become a liability. The network is showing me there's only one way to save what I've built." During the 6-week trial, Wolfe appeared calm as the prosecution laid out their case, portraying him as methodical and calculating. They presented evidence that he had researched untraceable poisons and how to make a death appear like stroke. Complications: his internet search history included terms like, "Can stroke medication interactions be detected after death?" and "How to make someone's death look like stroke complications." Former American Pickers crew members testified about disturbing changes in the dynamics between Wolfe and Frits. One production assistant described overhearing arguments in which Wolfe demanded complete creative control, telling Frits he no longer deserved equal billing due to his health problems. Others testified that Wolfe had begun isolating Frits from longtime friends and allies in the antique community. The most emotional testimony came from Danielle Colby, who reluctantly took the stand for the prosecution. Fighting back tears, she described confronting Wolfe about his obsession with being the sole face of American Pickers. "I noticed Mike had become obsessed," she testified. When I asked him about reconciling with Frank, he got defensive and angry. He told me to stop interfering. She also found disturbing notes in Wolfe's office detailing Fritz's medication schedule. When questioned, Wolfe claimed he was simply concerned about his former partner's health. The defense attempted to present the two as misunderstood. Friends, network executives, were called to testify that Wolfe had publicly supported Fritz's recovery, but their claims were undermined by testimony from Fritz's personal physician, who stated that Fritz had been optimistic about launching his own antique business. The doctor also confirmed he had never prescribed the medications found in Fritz's system at such high dosages. During cross-examination, Wolfe's calm demeanor began to unravel. When asked directly if he had administered the medication, he snapped at the prosecutor, yelling, "You have no idea what it's like to build something from nothing and watch someone else take credit." The courtroom fell silent. Jurors later cited that moment as pivotal, exposing Wolfe's deep-seated resentment and undermining his defense. The financial motive became clearer when forensic accountants testified that Wolfe had restructured his companies months before Fritz's death. He had taken out a $5 million business insurance policy on Fritz, naming his company as beneficiary. He also created several shell companies to quietly transfer valuable antiques worth over $2 million out of Fritz's reach. The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning a guilty verdict. When the judge sentenced Wolfe to life in prison without parole, the courtroom descended into chaos. Wolfe, who had remained composed throughout the trial, suddenly screamed, "You don't understand! He was going to ruin everything!" He lunged across the defense table, sending water glasses and legal pads flying, before charging toward Fritz's family, swinging wildly. Bailiffs rushed in as Wolfe grabbed an antique walking stick entered as evidence and struck one of them in the shoulder, i.e., "Built American Pickers! It was my life's work!" he shrieked as more officers tackled him. The judge was evacuated while Wolfe continued to thrash and scream. Fritz's sister was escorted out by security as Wolfe lunged toward her, yelling, "I deserved everything! It was my show!" Officers eventually handcuffed him, dragging him away. The most shocking moment came when Wolfe locked eyes with Danielle Colby, seated in the gallery. "Tell them the truth! Tell them what Frank was really like!" he shouted. Colby turned away, visibly shaken, while other crew members broke down in tears. The American Pickers family is now deeply fractured. Some crew members testified for the prosecution, while others continued to support Wolfe. Court documents revealed that Wolfe had spent years turning colleagues against Fritz, creating divisions in the production team. Even as he was removed from the courtroom, Wolfe continued his tirade. He was going to start his own show. He told me I was obsolete. Courtroom reporters described the scene as surreal, with at least 3 people injured, including Wolfe's own defense attorney. Former friends and colleagues came forward in the days following the trial. One producer described Wolfe's behind-the-scenes behavior as terrifying. "He had this perfect folksy image on camera," said Thomas Reynolds, "but off-camera, he was explosive." Others recalled his increasing paranoia, convinced that Fritz was planning a competing show. The History Channel quickly pulled all episodes featuring Wolfe and issued a statement expressing shock and sympathy for Fritz's family. Major sponsors have withdrawn and the future of the show remains uncertain. Fritz's family is pursuing legal action against the network for enabling Wolfe's escalating behavior. Mental health experts suggest Wolfe may have suffered from narcissistic personality disorder exacerbated by fame. Forensic psychologist Dr. Robert Keller stated, "This doesn't excuse his actions, but it helps explain the disconnect between his public charm and private hostility." Most chilling of all was how Wolfe used his platform after Fritz's death. He tearfully posted tributes online, claiming it was due to stroke complications, while promoting memorial merchandise. Prosecutor Sarah Donovan closed with a powerful statement. This wasn't just murder. It was a calculated deception of millions. Investigators later discovered over $1 million raised in Fritz's memory had been funneled into accounts accessible only by Wolfe. As Mike Wolfe begins his life sentence, the world of American Pickers is left reeling. Many viewers feel betrayed. "We invited him into our homes," said longtime fan Robert Jenkins. "To learn it was all a lie is devastating."